start our meeting tonight with Sister Jeannie Durr. She's going to open our meeting with a prayer tonight.
Thank you, Karen, and it's good to see so many of you here. It's a different place. You all cool enough? Okay, so if we just kind of take a deep breath or two and let yourself kind of settle in to this evening. And we're here in the presence of the Holy One where we always are, and in every place. And so we begin. Good and gracious God, we gather here in your presence. Imbue us with your Spirit, that what we seek for ourselves, we also seek for others. Respect, dignity, justice, a healthy environment, meaningful livings, life-sustaining communities, good friends and good neighbors, a safe place in which our children can grow and thrive. Holy One, we come trusting that this is what you want for us as well. Give us the strength and insight to inspire and support one another in this huge task to which we've put our hands and our hearts. Give us courage to confidently stand our ground without rancor or smallness. Give us good humor in this striving, that the heaviness of the burden not weigh us down or render us too weary to carry on. Give us a profound hope and confidence that in the end, our sustained effort will assure that the common good will be served. Give us then grateful hearts for all that is being done to secure well-being for us and for our children. Good and gracious God, tonight these are the hopes and prayers we raise to you. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Jeannie. Okay, so we have a lot of information to cover tonight. It's been a while since we've had a meeting, and I'm glad that you guys all took some time out of your very busy schedules with school back in session and lots of things going on as we enter into fall. Our Facebook is still growing. We still have a lot of members on there that ask to be a part of our group, and we continue to add new members every day. We'd also like for everyone to continue to promote our website, www.stlredwastelegacy.com. Visit that site often as we try to keep that site updated as well for quick access to information. We also have the P.O. Box. It's 1241. P.O. Box 1241, Maryland Heights, 63043. If anybody has anything that they want to send through the mail to us, or t-shirt ordering. If you want to order a t-shirt, you can see Debbie here. She has forms for that. You can talk with her a little bit if you have questions on that. We have raised $706 so far, and we've been exploring some ideas on maybe where we would like to spend some of that money. One idea that we have is maybe to help out the CAG to hire our own independent expert, and I think Doug Clemens is going to touch base with that a little bit later in the meeting. The other thing that we have been having our eye on a little bit is using some of that money to rent a bus to go take a trip to visit the governor. So we want to go ahead at this time and recognize any elected officials that we have in our audience. I know we have Bill Otto, Mary Nichols,
Randy Hine, Bridgeton Councilman, Ward 3.
Bill Ray with the County Executive's Office.
Pat Stinnett, Councilman Florissant, Ward 6.
Jerry Grimmer, Councilman Ward 2, Bridgeton.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Gina Walsh, Senator from the 13th District up in Florissant, Hazelwood, Belmont, and Green area.
Great, great. Thank you all. Gary from Officer Blunt's office here. Or Senator Blunt's office as well.
Are there any other offices represented here? Are there any other representatives of elected officials here? Just here. All right.
Okay. Also tonight we have Kim Baker. She is the Network Director of Community Affairs with SSM DePaul. She's here tonight with us as well, right over here. Okay, do we have any other businesses or organizations that would like to be recognized with us tonight? Anybody? Okay. So, one other great thing that we have tonight is Molly Dwyer Simonson. She is a licensed professional counselor for SSM Behavioral Health. She has, for more than a decade, supervised outpatient programs for severely mentally ill adults at DePaul Health Center, also helping to initiate a program for adolescents. As team leader, she supervises 3 outpatient programs involving 18 licensed professionals. During this time, she has also provided individual and group therapy and family interventions for adults with psychiatric illnesses through St. Mary's Health Center. Previously, she offered psychotherapy, group therapy, and family therapy for the mental health of children at St. Vincent Home for Children in Normandy. Mallory has a master's degree in community counseling from Truman State University. She has experience in professional skills, specializes in relationship building, communication, conflict resolution, mediation, and crisis intervention. Why is she here tonight? Because she is going to offer our community some stress tips, and I think that we can all agree that it's very stressful around here.
Good evening. Thank you, Gail, for that warm welcome. Yes, SSM DePaul and myself are here kind of to be your community partner, recognizing that as a community, whatever side of the fence you're on, you're experiencing significant stress. And as your community mental health partner, we want to make sure that we're recognizing that. So what I'm going to go over, certainly in 10 minutes, is not going to cover everything for everyone. I want to make sure that I've left you with some booklets that are really kind of, if you will, no offense sisters, a stress Bible to kind of help you manage through things. I also left up there my business cards. You are always welcome to reach out to us, not necessarily seeking our services, but maybe just looking to bounce some things off of us, okay? So please feel free to do that, all right? I also want to mention to you that sometimes when we think about stress, we always think about it negatively. Sometimes stress can be positive. It can motivate us to change when we're really uncomfortable. That's when we kind of say, I'm willing to try something different. I'm willing to come up with an action plan to get myself out of this place that isn't working very well for me anymore. So that's the place we hope to get all of us to where we're being productive. But sometimes where we're at right now is that destructive point of stress, and so that's why I'm here tonight. When we think about stress overload, we become paralyzed. We start to, kind of have that tunnel vision. We're not really sure what decisions to make anymore. We start to feel that unbalanced, and that's when we really need to kind of take a step back. I'm asking you to think for yourselves today in terms of all of us experience stress in a very unique way. We typically, though, experience it in one of 3 areas. We're just kind of wired that way. And so you know yourself best, and sometimes you need to kind of look in and say, how am I experiencing this right now? The first main way we experience stress is physically. Thank you. First main way we experience stress is physically. So you start to notice those things that are changing in your physical routine. Your sleep gets off, you're tossing and turning, your appetite changes. Those normal irritable bowel symptoms are becoming much worse. We're starting to develop some more of those underlying chronic health problems that some of you maybe already have going on. Diabetes, high blood pressure, migraine headaches. arthritis, general aches and pains, they're getting worse, even though you're doing all the right things still. Okay? Those are not things to ignore. Those are things to take note of. That's when we need to act on our stress, not when it gets to the point where you end up with some of those severe responses. So I'm trying to help you kind of do that awareness. Remind yourself that our body is wired for fight or flight. You know, we are wired by creatures of nature, and so we kick into that survival response. All those brain chemicals kind of turn on, and once we turn them on, we need to work nowadays to turn them off. In the past, they were designed for the primitive generation. We were chased by the saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger either ate us or we escaped, and it turned off. That doesn't work that way nowadays. We have these prolonged stressors, and they then become destructive to us. So that's why we need to kind of take note of them. If you are one of those people that tends to respond more physically to your stress, you want to use physical coping skills. It's not rocket science. So do those things that are physical outlets for you. Keep it simple though. Do the yard work, do the cleaning, do those things that allow you to kind of release some of those chemicals that are starting to wear on your symptom. Do things that are fun sometimes too. Zumba, okay? Yoga, do things with a group, okay? All of those things not only take our mind off things, but they're also helping us to release some of those really destructive chemicals that are causing that discomfort for us, okay? Is it gonna solve the stressor? No, but sometimes what we're looking at are stressors that are not in our control. Okay, our goal is to manage things so that we function best, all right? So that's the first area, physical. The second area that people tend to experience their stress is emotionally. You're just kind of wired that way. So maybe you notice that you become more irritable, more anxious, you're panicked or startled, okay? Take note of those things, don't ignore them, don't brush them off, all right? They'll keep bothering you. They get worse, they don't tend to go away, okay? You start to feel helpless or hopeless, all right? You start to withdraw. You stop doing those usual activities that you always did, okay? Maybe friends, family, they start commenting on it. Those are all little red flags that you want to attend to. Again, if we tend to be wired to emotionally respond to things in our stress, we want to target our coping skills to be an emotional coping skill, okay? So you're going to really look to create the experience you want to have. If I'm really stressed, I want to feel a sense of relaxation. If I'm feeling really depressed, I want to create the feeling of joy in my life. We have to do that. It doesn't magically happen for us, okay? So you want to create something even simple. I often teach patients about something called a comfort box. Create the things in that comfort box that help you. Tap into those 5 senses. Make sure you put something in there that you enjoy listening to. Put something in there that when you watch it, you laugh, you have a good time. An old movie, a great rerun. Okay? Put in there a smell that brings you some positive memories or some relaxation. All right? Put that candle out. Helps not only you function better, maybe helps your family function better too. You're going to be modeling these things for the people that you live with. Okay? We tend to recommend oatmeal, lilac, or vanilla. They tend to be the most soothing smells. Put something in that box that you enjoy when you taste it. Now, I always remind people, don't put in there a bottle of liquor. That's not a good thing. Okay, a box of Godiva chocolate for a diabetic is not a good thing, okay? Do something that is healthy within moderation, all right? It's okay to treat ourselves. It takes our mind off things. Remember, what's our goal? Our goal is to reduce those excitatory hormones and chemicals that are being released by our brain that are causing us to have a destructive response, okay? The last area, and probably my favorite, has to do with our touch. I had a gentleman once tell me that he put in his comfort box the remote control. He put it in there because when he holds onto it, he felt like he was in charge. He had power, control, okay? Now, most of us don't put a remote control in our comfort box, but do things like a massage, you know? Do things like a long hot bubble bath, all right? It's good for us. Is it fix the problem? No, but it helps us to face the problem in a much more positive way, all right? So those are for the emotional things. I do remind people, if you are more emotionally wired for your stress, you have to be particularly mindful of any underlying mental health issue you have, okay? If you have a family history of depression or anxiety, this may be the tipping point for you, okay? So don't wait till things snowball. Seek out some support. It doesn't necessarily have to be a counselor, a therapist, or a psychiatrist. I know sometimes we're the last people you come to see, okay? Pick out a good friend, a spiritual guide, okay? Someone in your life that you can talk through the emotions that you're experiencing. Sometimes just getting that validation from someone that we know and we love and we trust gives us a sense of relief for a little while, okay? If though you do realize that you're starting to cross that point, you know, when that panic is becoming unmanageable, your depression, you're not getting out of bed. Your family and friends are noticing things. That's when you need to reach out to us, okay? It's not forever. Sometimes short-term counseling or psychotherapy, sometimes some short-term medication management helps us to get through that, all right? So that's the second main area when we talk emotional. The third area that we tend to respond to in terms of our stress is our mental. What do I mean by that? This is how we think about things, our cognitions, okay? We are all wired to see things and perceive things through our own set of eyes, okay? So if we perceive things a certain way as threatening to us, we need to take note of that and change those thoughts, okay? Especially when we're stressed, we tend to do something called cognitive distortions. We all do it, okay? We tend to magnify things in our lives. We jump to conclusions. We ignore the small positives that maybe are happening in our everyday families, okay? That doesn't help our stress get better. It actually makes it get worse. So we want to, again, design our coping skills to target that. Do those reality checks, okay? Go out and get the information. Get the facts. Be your own Sherlock Holmes. I always advocate for that, all right? We want to have knowledge because when we feel like we have the knowledge and the understanding, then we create an action plan and we feel empowered. And that's our goal. If we feel empowered and safe and reassured in our community, we don't tend to feel as stressed, okay? The other two areas for the mental stress response is that something really simple called affirmations, which we hear a lot but maybe don't always use. A lot of times when we're dealing with stress, we start to kick into I can't, where it's bigger than me. We start to feel inferior. Use those affirmations. Remind yourself of all those hardships that you've gotten through in your life. You're alive today, however many years you are. You did something right, okay? Use those skills that you have. Remind yourself of your abilities, your talents, okay? And the last area is go back to what's worked. Okay, I tell people all the time, I have no magic wands in my office. I am not a mind reader. I have no x-ray goggles, okay? You truly are your own expert. You know yourself better than anyone. So think back. What have you done before? Our goal is not to get it perfect. There is no such thing as perfect. Our goal is not to necessarily get it the right way because there's not a right way. Our goal is sometimes to make it through the next day or the day after that. If we keep it simple, we stick to what we know, what's been successful in the past, we tend to weather the storm a little better. Okay? Now I know that that is a brief overview and certainly is not going to cover it all. And so what I brought with me is this wonderful thing called a stress workbook. It has in it probably over 1,000 different coping skills. Those coping skills, though, are divided into 3 areas that I just told you about, okay? Use them. They are not something that you have to go out and buy, all right? They're really simple things, tools that you can start to add to your kit, okay? As you go through not just this stressor, but other stressors that life just kind of brings our way, all right? Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Molly. That was a great presentation. I'm just going to speak for a second on my own personal issues with this whole nightmare that we are facing here. Of course, most of you know I'm from Coldwater Creek. I learned about this stuff about a year ago. It consumed my life. It really grabbed a hold of me and it held on tight. And I think some of you may kind of know what I'm talking about, where, you know, it's hard to deal with, it's frustrating, you're scared for your children, but what I wanted to say is this group has come together with the help of the Missouri Coalition for the Environment and several other organizations in this room. This group has come together to be educated and organized, and we're going to fight this as a group not on our emotions. We know what we're doing. We've researched and researched for hours, and we're going to do this. We're going to do it the right way. Next is Doug, and he's going to talk a little bit about the CAG.
Thanks, Doug. Karen. I'm the president of the Community Advisory Group, which is a legal arm of the EPA. Our job is to bring businesses, workers, residents, and municipalities, state elected officials all together to the table to get information from the EPA and to arrive to a conclusion. We actually have a vote in the record of decision, the outcome of this event. Now, I have been knowledgeable about this since I was 13 years of age. Radioactive waste in North County has been a prevalent problem. It has been a disaster for us. We did our part during World War II, and a lot of us suffered for our patriotic duty, and then our children and our grandchildren suffered for it. Most of this waste has been taken care of at this point. Through a legal loophole, the waste sitting in Westlake Landfill is still sitting there. The area where it came from, Laddie Avenue, people will speak to this later, the area it came from is still under remediation, and this is the area below the stuff that they dumped over here. So, I'm 45 years of age now. In 1990, the U.S. government created a Superfund site here at Westlake, which includes the entire landfill. Let's be clear about that. 1990 was a little bit ago. We just formed the Citizens Advisory Group 2 months ago. It's in its infancy, and it should have been up and running for years. I need your help. I need you to participate. We are forming committees to participate in different areas of what we're trying to break the pieces of the job into. Presently, we are applying for a technical assistance grant, which is a $50,000 grant, which allows us to hire an independent expert to go over all the data, all the reports that are currently on file from the EPA. It's been a long day. I started at 5:30 at Jefferson City. So, excuse me, my throat's getting dry. Right now, we're in the process of interviewing experts. We will shortly, hopefully, have the grant application granted to us and an expert in place. Once we do that, we will start making regular reports to anyone that wants to participate in the CAG. The CAG will have open public meetings. Everyone is welcome to attend. Those of you that fit the membership criteria will be able to join and have a vote in the CAG. Please bear this in mind. This is a legal body. We work by committee, but we actually have a say in how this outcome turns out for all of us. So please pay attention to us, and please don't be afraid to participate when we announce a meeting time. Thank you so much.
What's the membership criteria so people know?
Membership criteria is a 50% membership from a 1.5 mile residency within the surrounding area of the Westlake landfill. That means 50%. Other concerned parties and residents from outside of that area can be up to 50% of membership. Also, anyone that works in the area, anyone that has a business in the area, any elected official or body of government, so the fire district can be represented there, Pattonville School Board can be represented there, Bridgeton can be represented there. All these individuals may participate. So, any other questions from the audience before I put the mic on? All right, thank you very much for your time.
Next, we have Beth and Dawn. And Sophie.
Just move to the side.
Okay, I'll stand over here. Good evening. Before I start tonight, I think everyone in this building, along with
the Facebook page, and the Coldwater Creek page wishes Dawn a happy recovery from the hospital. She's back to fight more. So with back to school, we decided we wanted to do a scorecard for the elected officials.
Let's make it a I can't read that down.
I just want to say thank you to the operating engineer union, Mr. Pat Kramer over here, just handed us a check for $500.
See, they're superheroes. Okay, so we decided we want to do a scorecard for the elected officials to see where we're at, because a lot of people don't know where some sit, so we thought this would be a great way to start this out. So we were going to start. So we were going to start here with the municipalities and go on up to let you know. So if you'd like to take notes to know where you live, who you need to write to, what makes you angry, what makes you happy. So in the municipalities, thank you, Ed, 5 communities signed on for the removal of the nuclear weapons waste. In 2006, we had Florissant, and we had Bridgeton. 2008, we had Hazelwood, and 2009, we had St. Louis City and St. Louis County. Maryland Heights decided to write their own resolution in 2013.
Yeah, Maryland Heights just now passed a resolution this past Thursday. It's a step in the right direction because they basically asked for the smell. They dealt just with the odor. They didn't touch the radioactive waste. I'm disappointed, obviously, but I recognize that they did at least pass something dealing with this landfill, because before it felt as though nobody wanted to touch the issue, and frankly, there's nobody from Maryland Heights here right now. I mean, they're the state representatives, but there's no alderman present. But one of the things that I think is getting them is that, you know, they don't want to take a stand and ask for the radioactive waste to be removed. They're not comfortable with that. Why, I don't know. That's if I need you guys to make phone calls and ask. But what I would like to do is see if we can maybe get a group of people together to help me and reach out to them and see if we can get an amendment added to the resolution to ask for the removal, to get that in there. I'm hoping that it's just they don't understand what's there. I mean, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, say maybe that they're not educated enough on the Westlake topic. You know, so if anybody can see me afterwards and we can kind of work on that, we really need to reach out to them. I live in Maryland Heights, I'm right on the border, and it just doesn't make sense. Like Beth said, all these other cities have passed resolutions. There's no reason why Maryland Heights can't too. It's not an excuse at this point, so.
Okay, we're going to move on to Bridgeton. We have a special thank you tonight to these members. Linda Eaker, Ward 2. Okay. Randy Hine, Ward 3. Ferd Fetch, Ward 3. And Mr. Grimmer, Ward 2. They have attended many meetings and have brought back correct and factual information to the City Council. We have not once saw Mayor Conrad Bowers here and or Police Chief Hood. Maryland Heights, obviously we just talked about them, are ignoring the situation on the City Council, and they are out of touch. Moving on to state reps. These state representatives have been here with us from the very beginning. Representative Bill Otto, Representative Mary Nichols, Representative Keith English,
Senator Maria Chappelle Nadal, and Margot McNeil. I'm sorry, I can't read her handwriting. So one of the really cool things too is that a lot of you are writing out of state or out of town, your representatives, and we're actually getting feedback from them.
Shout out to Liz.
Yeah, there's Liz at. Liz is doing a lot of letter writing, and it's making a difference. People in southern Missouri near Joplin are finding out about this and are calling up trying to ask for more information. So that's really huge. We also have County Executive Charlie Dooley's office. I think Bill's here from Charlie Dooley's office. And I understand Harvey met, correct me if I'm wrong, Harvey met with you guys, right, in detail?
Yeah, Harvey met with myself, my counterpart in South, as well as the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Tom Curran. And since then, we've had conversations with the county executive as well as Harry Earls.
And that was a heavy chemistry lesson.
We had actually a longer than a 2-hour meeting to discuss and really go over the details, which honestly, a lot of the details we weren't clear on, but that meeting very much opened our eyes.
Well, you guys wrote a letter, and we want to recognize his office for that letter because, frankly, the chemistry in that letter was spot on. The questions, you know, it's hard sometimes because we get frustrated in the lack of involvement, but one of the things that I know Harvey said all along, and I really do think is true, is that Westlake is so complicated chemistry-wise. It takes, I mean, how many of you lived here and really understood Westlake up until right about now? You know, I lived here for 8 years and had no idea, and then when I got involved, it took me months before I could wrap my head around what it was. And that's another thing. We need to get a group of people together. If anybody out there even has like a slight chemistry knowledge, Jay Black, you know, we could use your help too on some of these technical details that we're trying to go through. Because what we need to do is do kind of what we did with Charlie Dooley's office. Harvey went and met with them, and I mean, I feel bad for you guys. I saw it ahead of time. I thought, oh, Harvey, you're going to try and fit 3 years of high school chemistry into an hour-long meeting. So, but the response that that the office wrote, I thought that was spot on. He really did address all those questions. He understood.
Okay, so obviously Charlie Dooley is sending Representative Bill, who that is.
So, Congresswoman Ann Wagner's office, we'd like a little bit more response out of them. How many of you have written Ann Wagner? Has anybody gotten anything other than a form letter? You've gotten no letter?
And it took 32 days to get mine.
Okay. Yeah, that's a problem. We need to work on that. One of the things that she's been quoted as saying, and she has worked tirelessly with all parties to resolve this issue. Elise EPA is dragging their feet. Now, I will say, that's a win, though. I mean, at least she says that they're dragging their feet.
But tirelessly with all parties, we've never been reached out by her personally to come to the meetings here to talk at all.
Okay. Lacey Clay's office. Is Lou Boosie here today? Is Lou here? I don't see Lou tonight. But he sent a formal congressional inquiry to the EPA asking them about FUSRAP. That's a huge win. That was huge. You know, there will be a formal response then made from them to him. So that's and that took a lot. That took a lot of your phone calls. So the main thing on that is they're asking for transfer of control to FUSRAP if it's possible. So they're trying to explore, like Doug said, what's that legal loophole up there that left Westlake out of all the other cleanup sites? Why is that the only one left? So,
Yeah, and he comes to almost every meeting with the exception of tonight. So now we're on to the U.S. Senators. So, Ms. Claire McCaskill. I don't know if you heard her today on the radio. She was contacted early on, and it resulted in form letters. But she did write 2 letters to the EPA, to Carl Brooks, stating that she wanted the information that MCE sent to the EPA, the questions to be answered in a timely manner. But as of noon today, the radio interview, she stated basically that the EPA test results and the community are on opposite sides of the issue. So we take that as she... Okay. She feels for us, but we did not learn anything new today from Claire McCaskill's office. So basically, the test results outweigh the community's concern. When we asked for her to stand behind the Pattonville Fire Department on the radio today, she did not answer. And to ask the removal of the waste, she did not answer. Senator Blunt, Roy Blunt. He was the first senator, congressional leader to acknowledge our situation. He has a member on his staff dedicated to solving this problem, who's here tonight. We've had meetings with Carrie. She has been present at our community meetings. She is in regular contact with the EPA, the Department of Energy, and the Corps of Engineers. He said he wants the community to return to normal again, but he has not publicly stated that he wants the removal of the waste.
Okay, and I did a little section called Not My Jurisdiction. I'm gonna get on a soapbox for a minute. And I'm not gonna apologize, because you know what? The Missouri River, the Mississippi River, the air, that's everybody's jurisdiction. And frankly, is it your jurisdiction to be dealing with this tonight? You guys are giving up time out of your lives to come here and learn stuff and try and solve an issue. It makes me a little angry because Beth drove from Rolla all the way up to be here to help us. This community fell through like a little hole, I think. There's somebody who has a job to deal specifically with what this community has all come together to do. I'm certain of it. I just can't figure out which agency is responsible for it. But we are doing somebody's job, no doubt, right now. Let me ask you this too. The DNR meeting that we had a couple months ago, we all gathered for, you remember they answered questions and then they said, well, send in forms and we'll answer them. Has anybody heard back? No. Okay, because that's a phone call I have to meet next week. I don't want to hear from any more other elected officials that this is not your jurisdiction. If you live in St. Louis, Missouri, it's your jurisdiction. It is. And, and I understand that we don't have a scientist who's ready to step on board just yet to say exactly what will happen when that fire, and if that fire ever hits the waste, but we all are smart enough to know that it won't be good. And we're all smart enough to know that it's gonna affect more than just Bridgeton and Maryland Heights. And I'll give you a good example. Raise your hand if you smelled the mulch fire. Who smelled that? I smelled it all the way out to Weldon Spring. I could smell it all the way out there. Now, if there were, let's just say, hypothetically, radioactive particles in that should give you a good idea of what it would do, okay? That's everybody's problem. And the other problem I have, besides not my jurisdiction, you can call us tree huggers if you want, but the truth is, this goes beyond that. This is logic. You don't have to stand on the side and be an environmentalist to support the removal of uranium just sitting on the ground about 2 miles from your local high school. That's kind of a no-brainer. So I understand the reluctance of these offices to want to say, because that's a big stance to come out and say, yeah, I want this radioactive waste removed. And I know myself, when I first got involved, it took me maybe 3 months to go over documents and decide exactly what I thought should happen. But at some point or other, they're going to have to either be for it or against it, is what it comes down to. And so I think that, we ran through this list, and I know it was long, and I'm sorry, but you needed to know where all these people stood. Oh, she's got a big one to the governor.
Okay, so the granddaddy of all, Governor Jay Nixon. So let me just read these to you. June 2010, it was a state of emergency in northwest Missouri for a flood. The response time was 9 days. May 2011, Joplin tornado, response time 2 days. April 2013, Hazelwood tornado, response time 24 hours. August 2013, Obama rodeo clown incident, response time 1 day. No response to 48,000 tons of nuclear weapons waste that was dumped in our community. Communities sent numerous letters and emails about Westlake. The response, a form letter directing us to the Attorney General, Chris Koster's office, who is suing Republic over violating environmental laws at Bridgeton Landfill, which is not even the same landfill. He's out of touch. This landfill, Bridgeton Landfill, has been in violation for 16 straight years for excess levels of methane gas seeping off-site. 12 of the 16 years, Governor Jay Nixon was Missouri Attorney General. It took 9 years before the state settled with the landfill owner. Year after year, violation after violation. So our question is, as the top cop in the state of Missouri, Attorney General Chris Koster, are you going to follow in Jay Nixon's footsteps, year after year, violation after violation, or will you break the cycle and hold this company liable and demand the cleanup and removal of the poison in our community? Thank you.
I understand that we have the superintendent from Pattonville School District here. Dr. Fulton, are you here? It's really nice to see the school district here. I really do thank you for coming, and now I'm gonna cry, so. My little girl started kindergarten this year, and I don't feel safe sending her to school. I live next to something horrible. And I don't think any of us knew we lived next to it. And regardless if there's a fire or not, I never would have bought a house next to 48,000 tons of radioactive nuclear weapons waste. I would not have done that. And the thing I think that bothers me the most, and I think some of you agree, is that there are studies done showing that this can be removed, and it can be done safely. They have done just unbelievable engineering studies on how to do it. They know where they're going to take the first shovelful out, and they know approximately what it's going to cost. So other than money, why is this not being removed? I do not understand. I can't wrap my head around it. When I talk to elected officials and I talk to all these offices, they say, well, it's not a money issue. I don't buy that. How can it not be a money issue? If it's not a safety issue, if it's not an engineering issue, then what is it? There's got to be a reason why it's not being removed or hasn't been. So that's where we stand.
Hello, my name is Ed Smith. I work for the Missouri Coalition for the Environment, and we're here because we've been working with folks around the landfill for a while now. This is just real quick, actually. Who's come to one of these meetings for the first time? Are there any first timers? Well, thank you for coming. Anyone from St. Charles? All right, St. Peter, St. Charles. So,
I text my alderman already.
Awesome. So this is the southern quarry. This is where the Sub-Surface Smoldering Event or Sub-Surface Landfill fire is happening. Here's the neck of the landfill that a lot of the work has been focused on so far, trying to prevent the smoldering event from reaching the north quarry right there. And then if I had a go-go gadget arm, I could get all the way up to the OU1 Area 1 where the radioactive wastes were dumped in 1973. So this is just a good visual for you. Next. Here's another map. We've got this kind of blackout area here. This is just another map. This is the area of the fire, the neck, the north quarry, and then the area with the radioactive wastes. And then this is actually a groundwater map that the EPA created last year, and it shows that there are several areas throughout the landfill contaminated with radioactive radium in the groundwater above the EPA's what they're called the maximum contaminant level. The fact about that is that in 2008, when the EPA made a record decision to leave the radioactive wastes there and put a cap on it and water monitors, there were only 4 of these, about 40 wells that showed radium above the maximum contaminant level of 5 picocuries per liter. The recent groundwater tests have shown about 20 wells contaminated with radium above the maximum contaminant level. And we'll get to that later. Next. So this is a look at the wall. So the Department of Natural Resources hired 2 landfill fire experts to consult with them on this particular issue because DNR did not have anybody that's a landfill fire expert. Some of the nation's best, as a matter of fact. And in January of 2013, there was a recommendation by Dr. Stark to basically build a firewall in the neck of the landfill. Todd Valhammer re-recommended that in June, and the entire time for Public Services has opted to not do that firewall in the neck and is using what they're called gas interceptor wells, which are not typical not used when battling landfill fires, per Todd Valhammer, not me. I'm not a landfill fire expert. So this is just Republic's comment back to DNR saying, no, we're not going to fight this fire by separating the north quarry from the south quarry. Next. So landfill gas emissions. The Republic Services, they just finished putting that big giant black tarp all the way across the landfill on the south quarry. If you drive by it, you'll see it. DNR sent a letter to Republic Services saying that if the odors continue, the landfill gas emissions, that the DNR has the right to enforce Republic Services to put a cap on the north quarry to help keep the odors at bay and help reduce oxygen intrusion into the landfill, which helps feed fires. Republic Services' response was, this is not in the agreed order. We're not responding to your request. Todd Valhammer also recommended immediately, not even if landfill gas emissions are coming from the north quarry, to put a cap on the north quarry landfill to mitigate a subsurface landfill fire from either starting there or spreading there. Next. This is that's Todd Valhammer saying cap the north quarry now. And this is when Republic Services will cap the north quarry, when temperatures reach 180 degrees and carbon monoxide levels reach 1,500 parts per million. Next. So we've talked a lot about triggers before. Republic Services filed a contingency plan, part 1, with the Department of Natural Resources in June. The coalition wrote a comment letter to DNR asking them to reject it because after reading fire expert Todd Valhammer's opinion on landfill fires, who's independent and doesn't have money riding on this outside of the paycheck he's getting from DNR, is recommending things significantly lower triggers. So the first one was 220 degrees or 3,000 parts per million for carbon monoxide, carbon monoxide if action is taken. DNR rejected that contingency plan, asked for public services to file another one within 20 days. They did. The revision decreased the temperature down to 180 degrees, and CL levels must be 1,500 parts per million. What you can't see right here is that if the temperature reaches 200 degrees, it doesn't matter what the carbon monoxide level is, the trigger will be tripped. Next. So this is Todd Valhammer's sort of diagram that he put in there. So you can see right here that Todd Valhammer agrees that if you're at 1,500 parts per million of carbon monoxide, and this is for the isolation break. This is building a trench in between the radioactive landfill part of this area and where the subsurface fire will be happening. So he agrees 1,500 parts per million in one well. So if there's one well in the North Quarry that shows that that reads this level, action should be taken. Or if there are two wells that read 1,000 parts per million, which is significantly lower, but sort of redundant. He calls for at least two before the fire break or the fire ditch is dug. Next. The top one, you can see that if temperatures are above 180 degrees, I believe that was two gas interceptor wells, or two gas extraction wells, that the fire break should be dug. If it's 200 degrees, it should be implemented as well. And then here's his combination, 195 and 1,500, which is actually higher than Republic's. Next. So in the amended contingency plan, some things changed. One of those was trigger line 1. So it's really hard to see here. So this is the south portion over here. This is kind of hard to see.